He is about to command them to advance, and one of his scouts reports a rider approaching bearing the Frey banner. While they were expecting an escort, they were still leagues away, but the scouts identified the rider as Robb's former squire, Olyvar Frey, so Robb allowed him to pass. When the boy is brought to them, they're surprised to see him dirty and wearing well-worn clothes, but Olyvar explains that he didn't come from the twins. Instead, they tried to send him away, but bore an urgent message. Olyvar.
Your Grace, I don't think Lord Walder intends to forgive you. There's been talk of bloodshed. I do not know the details, but our men-at-arms look like they're preparing for war instead of battle. Meanwhile, Black Walder and Lame Lothar have been busy meeting with my grandfather. Nothing good can come of that. They've also sent other Freys away, Ser Perwyn and those who rode alongside your battle guard.
Robb, this is troubling news. When we reunite with Lord Bolton, I shall, Olyvar.
Begging your pardon, Your Grace, but I fear Lord Bolton may be part of it. He recently agreed to marry one of my kind. It could be nothing, but the timing is suspect.
Robb's face hardens. The Freys are some of his most powerful Riverlands vassals and is key to getting back to the north. He cannot afford to ignore them, but this sounds more like a trap. He thanks Olyvar for this information and gathers his lords and advisors. When they arrive at the twins, the first thing Robb does is order Roose Bolton to guide the fords of the Trident to ensure the Lannisters do not bother them. Although the Lord of Dreadfort protests and says he already placed men to guard it, Robb insists that a seasoned lord must be in command and recalls the men from other houses, leaving only soldiers from House Bolton on the fords. Those men, he recalled, are placed just outside the camp as a reserve force. Next, he has the leaderless Karstark men placed under the command of Great John Umber with orders to keep an eye on them. Those remaining Dreadfort men are placed under the watchful eye of Dacy Mormont. Lastly, the Riverlords are ordered to keep a watchful eye on the camps. With these preparations, the Northern Rivermen gather to meet the Freys. As they gather within the castle, Robb's men remain on high alert, camped in formation and keeping their weapons close by while dressing in full armor under their clothes. Robb and his men remain vigilant. His lords remain sober and clustered together so they can support each other. Robb himself watches Walder Frey's every move, noting the veiled glances the old man exchanges with his sons and daughters. Just as the reins of Castamere begin to play, Robb nods at Small John Umber, who hurls a flagon at Walder Frey's guards and wrestles the nearest men-at-arms to the ground. Robb snatches a sword from the fallen guard and rushes over to Walder Frey's table just as the Northern Rivermen rush to their feet, charging at their Frey captors. The hall erupted into chaos. Northern soldiers storm forward, cutting down Frey men who now find themselves in surprise. Outside, Dacy Mormont and Great John led a small but swift charge to rally the men in the camps, turning the slaughter into a proper battle. This battle comes to a swift end as orders come from inside as the Freys are ordered to lay down their weapons by Lord Walder, who feels Robb's sword pressing against his throat. Robb, if you value your life, Lord Walder Frey, I suggest you order your men to stand down. Walder, I just did. Robb, all of them. Taking a deep breath, Walder and Lame Lothar signal the archers above to drop their crossbows, all but confirming his treachery. The king's men waste no time in disarming the Freys. Soon, the twins are now firmly under northern control. Next, Robb orders men to surround and arrest Roose Bolton. Amidst the confusion, the Dreadfort men are in no position to resist and are quickly suppressed with Roose Bolton taken back in chains. Yet their next discovery is even more shocking. Robb's sister Arya Stark was amongst the camp, escorted by the Hound. With no word from her since the start of the war, they assume the worst. But her arrival overjoys Robb and Caitlin, who take it as a good omen from the gods. As they finish securing the castle, though, some Freys are quick to jump at the opportunity to save themselves and confess the plan, including Ryman Frey, Walder's grandson and heir. He produces the letter sent by Tywin, privately giving assurances of this plan and promising to make the Freys lords of Riverrun if they betray the Starks. This information is enough for heads to begin rolling. Lord Walder, Walder Rivers, Lame Lothar, Black Walder, and the other ringleaders are executed. Meanwhile, the rest of the Freys are arrested or, like Sir Ryman, sent to the wall. Unfortunately, Roose Bolton was smart enough to destroy his correspondence, leaving them with no evidence aside from rumors and testimonies from the Freys. But Robb still insists on confronting him. Roose is dragged into the great halls of the twins. The banners of House Frey are now smoking in a nearby hearth. Robb Stark stands at the head of the room, his sword resting against the stone table as Roose Bolton is escorted in under heavy guard. The Lord of the Dreadfort moves with calm indifference. Roose, you've been busy, Your Grace. The Freys won't recover from this, I imagine. Robb, neither will you. If he intended to intimidate Roose, he failed as the Lord of Dreadfort doesn't flinch, offering a crooked smile. Roose, you've come to pass judgment then? Have you found proof of my supposed treachery? Robb, there's enough blood on your hands to drown the Dreadfort. You knew about the Freys plot. You married one of their daughters to secure your place in it. But you were clever enough to burn the evidence, weren't you? Roose, you flatter me, Your Grace. If you've no proof, what's stopping you from running me through here and now? My guards are gone, my banner's fallen. What's the delay? Robb, you don't deserve the mercy of a trial. If I were less of a man, I'd see your head mounted beside Walder Frey's, but I am not Walder Frey. Roose, perhaps you would benefit from taking a bit from him. Truth be told, I am rather disappointed. He might have been an old fool, but he understood that amidst the chaos, evidence could be found or created. Caitlin, you insult my son. You insult your king with such an idea. Lord Bolton, you forget that your life is in his hands. Roose, I forget nothing, my lady. I am simply telling the king what he ought to have learned by now. Your honor is the noose around your neck. You wouldn't be here if not for your obsession with it. Tell me, was it honorable to break faith with the Freys? To wed your queen while spitting on the vows you made to Walder? Honor didn't save your father. Honor didn't save Winterfell from Theon Greyjoy or win back the Karstarks. And now it's left you vulnerable, ruling over a fractured kingdom with lions at your door. Robb, I don't doubt myself. I doubt you. And I doubt whether sparing your life is worth the risk. Roose, then kill me. Prove to me, and your kingdom, you're more than just a boy who inherited his father's mistakes. Robb lifts his sword, and for a moment the hall holds its breath. But then he stops. His blade hovers in the air before he lowers it slowly. Roose, but tell me this. Your Gracito, you truly understand the opportunity you've been handed? You've survived something no one thought you could. Do you not see the chaos you could unleash in the Lannisters' domains? Robb, I've already ordered copies of Tywin's letter to be made. They're being sent to every lord and lady in the 7 kingdoms. The truth will reach them soon enough. Roose. Letters? Letters are words on parchment, easily dismissed or spun into lies by clever tongues. But tales, your grace, tales linger. Tales ignite. They are whispered in inns, sung by minstrels, and shouted by fools in markets. A letter tells one story. A song tells 100. Robb, songs? Do you think songs are what will win this war? Roose, this war is changed and the time for swords has passed. Now it is a game of the mind and hidden daggers. Send them out. Spread the tale of Walder Frey's treachery and Tywin Lannister's cowardice. Let the small folk mutter about the betrayal at the twins. Let lords hear it in every feast hall. Let it fester. Robb studies him in silence, his mind working through the implications. He hates the idea of using such underhanded tactics, but he cannot deny the value in it. Robb, you aren't giving this advice freely. Roose, spare me execution and allow me to take the black. You'll rid yourself of me, and I'll be far from your lands, which you can give to whatever toady you wish. Robb, you'll take the black, but if I ever hear of you setting foot south of the wall, there won't be another chance. Do you understand me?" As the guards take him away, Robb's thoughts linger on Bolton's words. Robb and his Northmen focus on retaking Moat Cailin while the Riverlords are sent out to begin this propaganda wall. Many of them are all too eager to turn against the Freys, telling how their sons and brothers were nearly massacred while under the banner of peace. They talk of Robb's cunning in outsmarting them and their bravery in overpowering them, but most of all they talk about the treachery of the Freys and the cowardice of Lord Tywin. Amidst this mockery there is also disgust and hatred. Guest right is one of the most sacred laws in the Seven Kingdoms, and Lord Tywin was prepared to throw it all aside. Singers begin to sing about the liar lion who hid in his den and employed weasels to hunt for him, while fools jape about wolves sending lions running back with their tails between their legs. Word soon reaches King's Landing and beyond. While no one dares question this in the Lannisters' presence, the Tyrells are far from certain. Their alliance is still young and has not been fully realized. In particular, Olenna Tyrell begins to question the value of working with the Lannisters. This is only made worse by a pair of further humiliations. The first is the death of King Joffrey, which throws the capital into chaos. Not only is this the loss of their king, but the rumors of Sansa Stark and Tyrion Lannister being responsible add to the shame. Many see it as divine justice for what Tywin intended to do, and others take it as proof that the Lannisters are not nearly as strong as they believe. The other is the arrival of Jaime Lannister, maimed and helpless. What should have been a great victory now turned bitter, as their greatest warrior cannot even fight. Olenna Tyrell begins to reach out with proposals. Now that Sansa has fled the capital and Tyrion facing trials, the Lannister plan to try and inherit Winterfell has failed, but the Tyrells now want their shot. She offers to marry her grandson, Willis Tyrell, with Arya Stark, as she is now technically Robb's heir. In exchange, the Tyrells will do their part to ensure the Lannisters can't march out to war immediately and give Robb a chance to secure his kingdom. Robb hesitates. He has just gotten Arya back, and the last thing he wants is to send her off again, but an alliance with the Tyrells can change everything. Arya and Catelyn are even more shocked and dismayed, but Arya reluctantly agrees. With that signed, suddenly the Tyrells find several reasons why they cannot march against the Riverlands. They must deal with rebellious vassals and secure the Rose Road. There are risks of an Ironborn attack. All these excuses and more flood the small council, preventing the Tyrells from acting. This frustrates Tywin, who makes plans to march out with just the Westermen, but before these plans can come to fruition, Tywin is murdered by Tyrion. With the Lannisters in chaos, Robb strikes at Moat Cailin. Weakened with Victarion leaving, the garrison is helpless as the Northmen attack from the south and north while the Crannogmen harass the garrison. This allowed the Northern Army to advance back into their territory, and the fresh influx of troops put the Ironborn on the back foot, with Torrhen's Square and their other holdings quickly falling. Yara Greyjoy, meanwhile, abandons Deepwood Motte, leaving the North fully in control of their territory, but there remain two sticking points. The first of these is Ramsay Snow, the bastard of Dreadfort. With the loss of Roose Bolton's station, Ramsay wisely chooses to flee into the mountains with his most loyal supporters. They are joined by renegade Northmen, Ironborn remnants, and begin causing a rampage across the rural areas of the north. The other is Mance Rayder, who is attacking the wall and is on the verge of overwhelming the Night's Watch. They've sent messages all across the north imploring for aid. And while most houses were not in a position to help, Robb sees this as his sworn duty to aid them. He gathers 3,000 of his most trusted veterans and marches to the wall to reinforce the Night's Watch. Among them is Roose Bolton, who will be left to serve out his sentence while leaving the rest to deal with the Ironborn. The wall rises against the pale sky, its icy expanse glittering in the weak northern sun. Robb Stark and his 3,000 veterans stare up at the wall, preparing themselves for battle, as the banners of House Stark flutter proudly in the wind. As they crest a hill near Castle Black, they prepare themselves for the worst. The recent reports did not look good, as the Night's Watch headquarters was on the verge of falling with only a tiny garrison. The sight of the northern reinforcements is a relief to the Night's Watch. Even with the relatively small force, it immediately turns the tide. For the next few days, the cavalry launches sorties out against the wildlings, who have no counter against the heavy horses, and break. Entire clans are surrounded or captured, while hundreds are taken prisoners. Meanwhile, the infantry reinforces the wall, manning defenses and raining arrows down. This makes it harder for climbers to try and flank them. Seeing how the full might of the North is backing them, Mance is forced to negotiate. He offers to surrender and lay down their weapons if they are allowed to settle in the gift. While Robb is initially reluctant, Jon vouches for them and suggests having the Night's Watch monitor them to ensure that things go smoothly. Robb, let the wildlings cross, but keep a close watch on them. Winter is coming for us all, and we'll need every sword to face it. In the coming weeks, wildlings begin to stream through the wall, dozens at first, but then hundreds. They begin to garrison additional castles with these volunteers. Among them are Tormund Giantsbane, Val the Wildling Princess, and many other notable leaders. But others refuse this offer, such as the Weeper and Rattleshirt, who opt to remain in captivity. But with these new castles being garrisoned, Jon Snow cannot keep track of all of them. This allows Roose Bolton to reach for power. First, he contacts his son and orders him to raid the gift to distract the Night's Watch and the wildling settlers. And then he secretly contacts Rattleshirt and frees him. Together with the exiled Freys, the group plots to rebuild their forces. They send Rattleshirt beyond the wall to the holdouts, offering to let them pillage to their heart's content if they help Roose Bolton. Soon thousands of wildlings rush to join them, led by the Weeper. Once they are prepared to cross the wall, Roose sends word for Ramsay to attack Mole's town, pulling away wildlings and men from the Night's Watch who try to beat them back. This gives Roose the opportunity. He and his mutineers gather to take control of Greyguard, wiping out the small garrison and opening the gates to let their new army through. They rush through the gift, burning and pillaging everything in their way. Jon is the first to hear of this, and he gathers the Night's Watch and tries to beat them back, but his ramshackle force is no match for Roose, as he's gathered nearly 10,000 wildlings along with renegade Ironborn, bandits, and Dreadfort soldiers. This army burns through the area around Greyguard and the gift, where they try to raise reinforcements from the wildlings there. But to their surprise, Tormund and most of the other leaders remain loyal. Seeing this, Roose hurries south to gather more allies. They find these allies in the form of Arnulf Karstark, who offers them shelter in Karhold. As their army gathers there, Robb gets word of this attack and marches out to face him. By the time they reach Karhold, Roose and his army have set themselves in front of the walls, a hodgepodge of wildlings, Ironborn, rebels, and Night's Watch deserters. One banner stands taller than the rest, the flayed man of Bolton. Robb turns to his commanders, including Jon Snow, who left his position in the Night's Watch. Around them, the Stark bannermen Galbart Glover, Wyman Manderly, Great John Umber, and Mage Mormont await their king's orders, their forces bolstered by wildling conscripts who chose to remain loyal. Robb. Every day they remain, they burn more of the North. We end this now. He's gathered the desperate and the disloyal. Their unity is brittle. Break their spirit and they'll scatter. At dawn, the battle begins. Robb orders his cavalry to sweep wide, aiming to encircle the enemy camp. Galbart Glover leads the charge, his riders crashing into the wildling flanks with a thunderous roar. The wildlings fight fiercely against the heavy horse of the North, but lack the discipline to hold and begin to be pushed back. From the center, Robb's main host advances, shields locked and spears bristling like a porcupine's quills. Between their ranks, Jon's wildlings fight alongside them, a mix of axes, spears, and crude weapons crashing into Roos's renegades. Even a few giants rush forward atop mammoths, sweeping men aside. The center is made up of iron-born renegade Northmen and Night's Watch deserters. They are far more disciplined and better armed. Their shield wall holds them from the attack, thanks to Cregan Karstark rallying them. From above a small hill, Roose Bolton watches everything and relays instructions. Suddenly, the left flank made up of Ramsay's bandits rushes against Tormund's right. Although not the heavy cavalry of the northern houses, his horses are enough to terrorize the wildlings and open up gaps for them to ride through. These light cavalry rush through and hit the northern forces from the rear, taking the pressure off the Karstark's beleaguered force. But as they are starting to make progress, he comes face to face with Jon Snow, who rallies a group of retainers from the center and forms a defensive line in their rear. Lacking the armor to break through, Ramsay's forces begin to get bogged down. Things only get worse when a squadron from the right flank suddenly rushes forward, led by Tormund Giantsbane. Without their maneuverability, these cavalrymen are cut down amidst the wildlings' laughter. Tormund: "Come on, you bastards! Did you want the North? Here's the bloody North!" The sight of their former comrades turning against them breaks the spirit of many of Roos's wildlings. They begin to scatter, retreating toward the tree line. Meanwhile, the Ironborn begin to pull back too, as they decide this endeavor is no longer worth their effort. Ramsay charges forward recklessly, screaming curses at his fleeing men. He drives his horse toward Jon Snow, and their paths converge. Ramsay swings his sword wildly, striking as if Jon were a piece of meat. These clumsy attacks are easily blocked by Jon Snow. "Ramsay, you're nothing but a bastard." But Jon's response takes the words from Ramsay as he suddenly falls over, as Jon slays his horse from under him. As Ramsay gets to his feet, Jon Snow comes at him, their swords clashing in a flurry of sparks that light up the ground around them. Yet the flow of the battle begins to shift as Longclaw cuts through Ramsay's defenses, sending him tumbling from his horse. The Bastard of Bolton falls to the blood-soaked snow, his face twisted in rage and disbelief. On the hill, Roose Bolton watches the collapse of his forces. His horse shifts nervously beneath him as the Stark banners draw closer. Roose: "It seems the day is lost." Moments later, Stark riders crest the hill. At their head is Robb Stark, his sword raised high. "Robb, Roose Bolton, you are done. Surrender, and your men may yet live." Roose looks down at Robb, his face unreadable. Slowly he dismounts, dropping his sword to the ground. "Roose, you have your victory, your grace." By nightfall, the battlefield is quiet. Ramsay's body is strung up on a tree as a warning to all who would follow his path. Beside him is Arnulf Karstark, the Weeper, and Rattleshirt. Roose is brought before Robb in chains. His face is composed as ever. "Robb, your crimes have brought ruin to the north." Roose: "Do not think this victory makes you invincible, your grace. The north remembers, but so too does the south." Robb: "But you will not live to see it." Without another word, Robb lifts his sword and decapitates Roose. In the south, Olenna is true to her word and ensures the Lannisters' efforts are hampered, though this is helped by Cersei's incompetence. Her attempts to unseat Margaery as queen only cause Olenna to decide that maintaining the Iron Throne is more trouble than it's worth, and instead convinces the Tyrells to back Stannis. Coupled with the stain on the Lannisters' reputation from the Red Wedding ensures that few respect them, and their failures allow even less to fear them. Without Tywin, the house soon sinks into obscurity. With the war over, Robb sends Arya down to marry Willis. Thankfully, this marriage proves to be happy, as Willis is happy to let Arya continue training as a swordswoman. Eventually, he decides to bend the knee to Stannis, making the Seven Kingdoms whole once again. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.